Yeah. Zeina, can I ask you to sit? You're okay?
I go around you.
Hello. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. My name is Lien Snej, and I'm the director of the Arts and Culture program at the Middle East Institute, and I'm so happy to welcome you to today's program, which promises to be a real treat. We are delighted to host the Dubai-based Lebanese award-winning poet Zeina Hashem Beck for a poetry reading while she's currently on tour in the United States. Zeina Hashem Beck's writings are rooted in Arabic culture and explore topics such as home, exile, identity, female voices, and religion. She uses different languages and context to create poetry that is emotionally, linguistically, and musically rich and sits at the intersection of the personal and the political, the divine and the profane, the self and the other. When I first read a poem of Zeina, I felt immediately connected to her writings in a very personal way. Her ability to touch the intimate and the everyday is remarkable. And her poetry, so rich and sincere, captures the heart. I always felt that poetry was a harder art form for me, but there was something different in Zeina's writing, a sincerity and richness that transported me home, to familiar smells, memories, gestures, and loved ones. And anyone who has experienced longing, exile, or just the memories of places and people we hold dear will soon understand what I mean. Louder Than Hearts is Zeina's second full-length collection and won the 2016 May Sarton, New Hampshire Poetry Prize. We are selling the book right outside. Grab your copy. You won't regret it, I promise. Zeina is also the author of 2 poetry chapbooks, Arabi Song, winner of the 2016 Untitled Chapter Prize, and There Was, and How Much There Was, a 2016 Laureate's Choice. Her work has appeared in Plowshares, Poetry, the Academy of American Poets, and Poetry London, among others. Her poem, Maqam, won Poetry Magazine's 2017 Frederick Bock Prize. Our event today is being moderated by Zeina Azzam, and I cannot think of a better person for this role today. Thank you, Zeina, for accepting our invitation. Beyond the fact that they share a first name, their work converges and meets in so many ways. Zeina Azzam is a Palestinian-American accomplished writer, poet, editor, and community activist. Currently, she works as publications editor at Arab Center, Washington, D.C., and previously she served as executive director of the Jerusalem Fund and director educational outreach at the Center for Contemporary Studies at Georgetown University. Zeina's poems are published in Pleiades, Heartwood Literary Magazine, Sukun, Mizna, and many more. Their full biographies are available in your handout for your convenience. Before I leave you with what promises to be a great fest of the 2 Zeinas, which is how they described it when I first looped them together, I'd like to tell you a little bit more of what we have in store for you, just because it's so exciting and I wanted to share. We are busy and working tirelessly at MEI for the grand opening of MEI in September in our renovated historic location on N Street, just around the corner. We are also excited about the opening of our new gallery inside MEI's new renovated building. The gallery will be devoted to contemporary and modern art, photography, and video from the Middle East. Our arts and culture program, which we ran for the past 5 years, has grown into this new arts and culture center that will include the gallery, a conference room, a sculpture garden, and a library. This expansion in the arts and our new Arts and Culture Center, which will allow us to do so much more, is overseen by our incredible Vice President Kate Seeley, with whom I am most lucky to be working so closely with. The opening of the Arts and Culture Center will elevate our work in the arts and to help us bring the voices and work of artists from the Middle East to DC and beyond, to show the region's vibrant art scene, but also to get a chance to speak about social, economic, even political issues through the lens of the arts. To get more information and plug into this, look out for our quarterly arts newsletter coming out in the next couple of weeks, which will reveal our opening exhibition in September and many more exciting art news. Turning back to our program today, and before we begin, I'd like to ask you to silence your mobile devices, but we encourage you to tweet at us using our arts and culture handle at MEI Arts Culture. We hope you will connect regularly with our arts and culture program on Twitter, on Facebook, and by visiting our website, where you will find insightful articles, upcoming events, and other opportunities to engage with us. Now, without further ado, I want to turn the conversation over to Zeina Azzam.
Thank you so much, Lean Snej and Kate Seeley and everybody at the Middle East Institute for organizing this event and for inviting me to be part of it. It is really such a pleasure for me. It's wonderful to see so many good, familiar faces, poets, friends and colleagues in the audience. So welcome to all of you. And what an honor to be up here with Zeina Hashem Beck. Her poetry has really spoken to me for a very long time, and I see myself in a lot of the experiences and the words that she expresses, but she does it so masterfully, and I'm in awe, and I'm so thrilled to be with you. I'm going to be asking Zeina a few questions. We're going to have a conversation up here, and after about half an hour, we'll open it to the audience if you have questions of Zeina as well. So I'm going to start with a very basic question to you, Zeina. Can you tell us about the range of the topics and the themes that you explore in your poetry, and are there particular ones that you go back to often?
Am I hearing a sound?
There's something.
Sorry, it's a bit distracting. Okay.
Is that better?
So should we take turns with this?
Yeah, it's fine. It's better than the... So I think, yes, I think we, as poets, I feel that we have certain obsessions that we keep writing into, hopefully writing differently into. But for me, for example, one obsession is languages. So existing at the intersection of Arabic, English, and French. Another preoccupation in this particular book is Arabic music and Arab singers. I don't know, I don't think that will carry on, but I think, like, for example, language will always be an obsession. I'm really interested in the idea of place. When you enter a city, what stories there are in a particular city? What stories does Beirut tell me? What stories does Tripoli tell me? So the idea of place is very interesting for me. But also, like a lot of poets, I feel like it's so simple. We're just obsessed with life and death. We really are. We just write differently, write into them differently. So now I find in my new work, I'm really kind of going towards the idea of the body. What does it mean to exist in a body that can get sick and age? And so now I'm thinking a lot about the body and friendship and love poems. That's what I'm working on kind of right now. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. Zeina and I were talking earlier about how often Arab American poets get kind of pigeonholed into poetry that's political, and that's all people want to hear. But I think we have an example of someone who does so much more. And I'd like to get to Zeina's poetry. Naomi Shihab Nye, who's a very major Arab American, Palestinian American, and really just major mainstream American poet, describes your poem, which is titled You Fixed It, as a poem that, quote, might be one of the masterpieces of our time. In this poem, Zeina, you take the reader on an amazing journey of challenges and coping mechanisms and cultural images and necessary lessons and hopes. I'd like to ask you to read that poem and maybe explain the inspiration for it, either before or after you read it.
I think one pivotal event that led to this book is two pivotal events. One is more communal, but also personal. The other one is strictly personal. Is the summer of 2013. In August 2013, there were two major mosque explosions in my hometown of Tripoli. And, you know, I was there. I go back there every summer. So that made me go back to what is my relationship to this city? What can I write about this city? And Tripoli is the city of my childhood, and I think You Fixed It goes back to that. The second major event that happened 2 days after the explosions, that my cousin got shot on the street, also in Tripoli, and he passed. So that I feel You Fixed It comes from that place of trauma, but wants to navigate towards a place of celebration. Yes, so let me find it. Okay. And I don't know why, I don't read it often, so I'm glad you asked me to. Yeah. And if the compass broke, you fixed it, fastened the pencil to it with a rubber band. And if there was no hot water, you fixed it. Learned to sit on that plastic stool in the bathroom and count. And if it was too cold outside, you fixed it. And there was the smell of burnt lemon on the brazier, or the click, click, click of the gas heater. And if you were bored, you fixed it. Learned to cut paper and color the scraps. Learned to write on the walls. And if you wrote on the walls, you fixed it. Scrubbed them with your mom, who yelled at your big brother, who what on earth was he doing, just watching? And if the TV blurred, you fixed it. Adjusted the antenna to catch those Japanese cartoons translated into Arabic on the Syrian channel. And if the cartoons hadn't begun, you fixed it. Danced to those nationalistic Syrian songs about Hafid, repeated Yahala, 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 hey. And if you didn't have enough books, you fixed it. Read that French-Arabic dictionary the size of your torso. Stared at the word crépuscule and shafaq. And if you tripped on the missing tile, you fixed it. Learned to count your steps in the dark afternoon without electricity. And if there was no electricity, you fixed it. Gauged how dark it was by whether or not you could see your thumb. And if you couldn't see your thumb, you fixed it. Got the candle from under the sink. And if the sink was leaking, you fixed it. Tied a cloth to the pipe. And if the pipe burst, you fixed it. Pressed your palms against the hole in the wall until mom called the grocer to call the butcher to call the plumber next to him. And if there was a hole in your sock, you fixed it, learned to fold it under your big toe. And if your window shattered, you fixed it, taped cardboard to the frame. And if someone died, you fixed it by telling stories about how crusty their lahm b'ajeen was. And if the lahm b'ajeen was too crusty, you fixed it by dipping it in the tahini. And if your sorrow hardened, you fixed it by dipping it in seawater. And if your country hardened, you fixed it by dipping it in song.
Thank you, Zeina. As we just heard in this poem, I know that some of us Arab American poets like to feature Arabic words and phrases in our English poetry. I, for one, am exploring ways to do this in a meaningful way, since Arabic is such an important part of my identity and my culture. And so your use of Arabic in your English poetry is most innovative and manages to conjure two cultures at the same time. Or perhaps it goes beyond delineations of cultures and forms something new. Please talk about your approach to the two languages in your poems. Are they juxtapositions? Are they complementary? Do they build on each other? And does the reader need to know both languages to understand these poems? I know that was lots of questions.
That's a big question, but it's an excellent question. Thank you. I think in this particular collection, what you're talking about is me introducing Arabic words or some Arabic phrases within the poems, and I think it's just really generally speaking, it's just a natural consequence of who I am and how I speak. And so, but more particularly speaking, it depends on each particular poem and what each particular poem calls for. So that, for example, sometimes the Arabic words are there because I'm speaking in the voice of a character who is speaking them. For example, my aunt, if my aunt says haram, how on earth am I going to translate haram or yalla? Or for example, in one poem where I talk about all my aunts, one of them talks about, oh, sorry, my eyelashes have been falling into the fattoush these days. My children call them blessings, and blessing didn't just do it because what she called them is barakat. And then I followed it with barakat. So that's the character in the poem really talking the way they speak. It's to represent that character better. Food features a lot. And so, I'm not going to say ball of hummus fried instead of falafel, right? Or like burghul meat instead of kibbeh. So a lot of Arabic words are food words, wara'ana, but they feature throughout the collection, and I don't think one should bother to translate these. Songs, words from songs feature. Again, you're not going to go about translating Kulthum. Though in one of the poems about Kulthum, I do translate Halla al-hubbu sukara, and I do say, has love ever seen such drunkenness? Because it sounded good in English, but usually I stuck to the Arabic with the songs. And sometimes it's deeper than that. Sometimes it's me taking a look at an Arabic word and seeing, okay, I want to describe that word. I want to write a poem about that particular word and how Arabic differs from English. For example, the word yu'burni is the title of one poem in there, and the word yu'burni in Arabic literally translates, is a term of endearment, and it literally translates as, may you bury me. And I say it to my kids all the time. You say it, yu'burni, you're so cute, yu'burni, oh my God, this is how you say it. And the intention is that you love this person so much that you want to die before them. You don't want to see them die. And I hadn't really thought of it until my daughter, who was, I think 3 at the time, said it back to me. And she said, Mama, tu'brini, I love you. And I said, no, no. And she's like, why? You say it to me. I'm, no, don't say it, don't say it. And I had this like reaction, what the hell are you talking? And then this made me think about how, how we might use language. So some of the poems explore that, I guess. Yeah.
Well, I think this leads very well to asking you about your bilingual duets, which is, it seems like this is a genre you're exploring more now. Can you tell us a little bit about that and maybe read a poem of that?
The duet is a step further. So that in the duet is a form I've been experimenting with that I've invented. And in these poems, you've got Arabic words, terms, expressions. In the duet, Arabic is a more equal part. It's not even a more equal. It's an equal partner in the poem. So that you've got three poems on the page. If you only read English, you've got a poem in English, and that's fine. You read it, you've got it. If you only read Arabic, you have a poem in Arabic, and that's fine. And if you're bilingual, then you're reading like this, interweaving the English and Arabic as you're going down the page. And hopefully, out of the conversation between the two poems, a third poem or dimension opens up. They're not translations of one another. Some lines echo one another. Very often they disagree, the two languages. And so this is the experiment of the duet. And I think it's better heard than, just talked about. So this is one of them. And it's kind of an ode, anti-ode to the Mediterranean Sea in Beirut. It's called Blue أزرق. نرى البحر ولا نراه إلا في المنام. A patch, a glimpse among the antennas, أو من بين الشرطان على الأسطح. How to brave this blue. لا بحر لنا هنا ولا قوة. Sometimes I forget the sea is this close. لنا حب قديم يريد أن يحفر لك في الإسمنت شاطئا. My love, I want to dig a beach for you out of this cement. لنا مطر محمل تارة بعطش الأرض وتارة بعفن الشارع. Oh, old faith and new. Oh, time of wells and time of satellite dishes. لنا الحر والرقص على ظهور المباني. قد نرى بقعة بحر من هناك. Are the fish still edible? Our nets are full of plastic and trash. لنا كأس تجري فينا كنبع صغير ننسج فيه سماء وغروبا ونجوما وتراتيلا. My parents threw me in the sea when I was 2 and I floated. They called me little fish. My parents trusted the sea more. إلهنا الأزرق لم نعد نعبده وما زلنا نحبه. O blue God we no longer worship, but still love. لما لا نتذكر البحر إلا عندما تموت العصافير على الشرفات. Over breakfast, I had to convince a friend Beirut was still on the Mediterranean. لمن ندون أحلامنا كل صباح. Are you sure, he asked? Is it a deep, bluest blue? ما أجمل الموت بلا ضرائح. Yes, I said. No, I said. ارفعني على كتفيك قبل أن نحرق المدينة. Lift me on your shoulders. Roll in the tires. Light them up. Oh, city we no longer love, but still worship. لقد أقسمنا أن نقلع عن عبادة هذه المدينة.
Wow, that was beautiful, Zeina. Thank you. You also seem to look for congruences between poetry and other art forms, and you mentioned music already. It's truly fascinating that in Arab music, the concept of a specific group of notes that form a mode, kind of like a scale, that an entire song is based on, is called the Maqam. Of course, the Arabic word Maqam also means a place of rest, or a home that one goes back to. I know you have a poem titled Maqam, and I think it's won an award, and a very prestigious award. So I'd like to ask you about this concept from music and others that you use from Arabic music. How do they all figure into your poetry? Does poetry look for a home in music and vice versa? What is the connection between the musicality of the poem in terms of the sounds of the words, the meter, the meaning with music? And do you find a kind of synergy when you combine poetry and music?
Oh, yeah, that's a very big question. Poetry is music, and music is poetry. Like, I don't, what is a poem without its music? Like, even if it's not a poem that that refers to Maqam, or a poem that refers to Kulthum, or a poem about just walking down the street and looking at people should be musical. There should be, and that's something that is just, that I've simply learned by reading poetry out loud. Like, as soon as I compose it, I get up, I walk around, and I read the poem out loud. In terms of Arabic music, like I said, in this collection, I really wanted to pay tribute to Arabic music, because we really grew, I really grew up listening, like in a household that really listened to lots of, like, Kulthum, Abdul Halim, Warda, but also like, kind of music. So all of it, I wanted to pay tribute to that. I am not very well versed in music. Like, I know about the idea of a maqam, but I can never tell what's, for example, oh, that's a maqam Hijaz. I don't know. But I was fascinated with this. So yeah, but poetry and music are so interrelated. Yeah.
Would you like to read Maqam, or shall we go to the other musical poem, or we could do both? Let's do Maqam.
Yeah, we'll read Maqam. Okay. Mm-hmm. Is there another musical poem that you wanted me to? That has a story behind it. That's completely different from Maqam. We'll talk. Okay. So, as Zeina said, Maqam is a musical term, but it's also a term that refers to home, and I'm playing on both these references here. If I die, you say you will let your hair turn silver, grow long, and you will go into the dark place, for you've already begun to forget what Mecca means. Where we come from, you and I, Maqam means home, means music. The Quran can only be read as a song. A sheikh recites the Fatiha as if he has built a house among the lines, the ayahs. We've both called our daughters Ayah. And when they ask about their name, we play holy verses for them. Listen to how the sheikh lingers long enough on each letter, how the audience claps and whistles. Is it Kulthum? Our daughters ask. He knows all his maqamat, this sheikh. Says God is greater and Allah, Allah, reply the faithful and the unfaithful alike. For the earth is such a small planet, and look, there is Ithaca, almost always on the horizon. Float, my friend. Ithaca, it is rough, but raises good men, says Homer. But oh, the women know how to house the bodies of the drowned. They sing in the name of the cross, of God the merciful. A child in Syria has amputated legs because he has ventured into a minefield to eat grass. He still has 2 eyes, 2 arms, a mouth. God is greater, stay with me in the light a little longer. You light 2 cigarettes at the same time, give me one. Tomorrow you will fly to Lesbos to translate. The refugees will say shy, and you will say tea, home, Mecca, Ithaca, Maqam, Maqam, Maqam.
Thank you so much, Zeina, for that. I feel like these are gifts that keep coming from Zeina. Thank you.
Thank you.
So as you mentioned, you're originally from Tripoli, from Lebanon, and you wrote the poem Arabi Song for the city of Tripoli. You're in for a treat if you haven't seen this already. I'd like to have us watch a choral rendition of Arabi Song. And
it's my very good friend Hajar doing this. Shame on you. You're the one person who's like my dear, dear friend.
So anyway, the Lebanese Fayha choir from Tripoli renders this beautiful poem in this video. So before we look at it, maybe you can give a background explanation. How did this musical poem come about? And why did you want to integrate the folk songs and the more contemporary songs into this beautiful masterpiece?
Thank you. Thank you, Zeina, first of all, for Zeina had the idea of playing this, and she reminded me of it. I usually forget about this performance because in all honesty, just purely poetically speaking, if you look at this as just a poem, it is not a very good poem, but it is a very good performance. It was written to be performed. I wrote it completely differently from what you just heard here. I used repetition the way it might be used in Arabic song, etc., etc. This poem came about, it was just this visceral thing that just came after the Tripoli explosions, the summer of 2013. And in my head, there was the refrain, sing instead, that I wanted to sing instead, that I don't want to just grieve. And from sing instead, I thought, someone should be singing alongside these lines. And I tried to do it myself, and I'm not good at it, like it didn't sound. And so I let it be for years. I just put it on the side, and then one day I had a performance at the Emirates Airline Festival of Literature in Dubai, and I was sitting across one of the directors, and she casually mentioned, oh, there are choirs coming in from different parts of the world, and we want a choir to come in, you guys do some poetry, and then maybe they can sing in the beginning and middle and the end. And I said, oh, nice. Which choir is singing the night we're going to be performing? And she said, I think it's the Sudanese choir. The Fayha choir is singing. I said, wait a second. Did you just say the Fayha choir? I know the Fayha choir. They're a choir from my hometown, every single one of them, and they sing beautifully. And she said, yeah. And I said, could you switch them? I had no idea what I wanted to do, but I said, could you please switch them? And she said, yeah. I'll switch them. And then I called my mom. Tripoli is a very small town. And I said, Mama, can you please ask around and connect me to someone in this choir? I want to talk to them before they come. And my mom, of course, got me the phone number of the choir director. And I called her. Her name is Rula. I said, Rula, this is the story. This is the poem. No. I want to do this. Let's collaborate. The maestro was there. He said, yes, I like this. And we had one shot at it. We met a day before the performance in the lobby of a hotel in Dubai, in the lobby. And there were songs that I had written that I thought, okay, I want this song to come in here. And the maestro, of course, changed them because he knew what songs his choir knew. So some songs overlapped with what I had initially had in mind, and some songs he'd say, no. I know what you mean. You need the love poem here. Libsul kafafi. And they would, And the last thing I'm going to say is when you listen, there's a beautiful voice, you can't see him, of a man who sings Ya Layli Ya Ain, who comes in and goes Ya Layli Ya Layli, and his name is Tariq. And what I didn't know is I told them, I want a Yalil Ya'ain in it. And the maestro immediately said, Tariq, you know, and he has a beautiful voice. And the maestro then looked at me and he said, Zeina, do you know Tariq was at one of the mosques the day of the explosions? And that was it. Like, it was really difficult for me to perform it without crying, listening to them, because it heightens it. The music heightens it to a degree. Yeah, now it has to be good. Otherwise, I've talked it up. But this is what I want to say. It's different. It was written to be performed and to be performed with music.
Yeah. Yusra?
Sing instead. Sing me your pain in any language and I will get it. You see, all songs are Arabic to me. All poems will have this thum 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 beat, and they too will be about the price of bread. The broken furniture on the street, the tap water we cannot drink, and thum 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 thum. This revolution we keep dreaming of, so sing instead. Give me your pain and I will break it into quarter notes. Clap and sway my hips to Yalil, Ya'ain. Yes, that's it. Let's give it a shoulder shake too, yalla. Let's sing this forgotten Arabi song. Let's sing the revolvers out of the alleys and back into war poems about love and hazelnut eyes. Let's sing those hazelnut eyes out of the war poems and back into sunlit gardens. Let's sing. Sing those toughened men out of their trenches and back into their mothers' lullabies. Yalla, yalla tnam, yalla. Let's sing the mothers' lullabies back into the streets. Let us sing the mothers back into the streets. Let's sing the sky out of our holy books and back into the arms of children. Let us sing those burnt children out of the exploded car and back on the beach. Let's sing to them. Let us sing to them. Let's sing numbers out of those headlines cluttered with the dead and back onto the fingers of lovers, counting the stars, singing, singing. hairs off our faces, out of our hair and back, onto ouds, dilbekkis, kamanjas, for songs are another kind of burning. And yes, I know that words never bring back anything, not really, but neither does blood. And I know that when my cousin died, I ran up the stairs and found my aunt mourning her son with song. She was mourning her son who got shot on the street with song. She was singing, Hal Asmar, Hal Asmar, Hal Asmar al-Lon. So let us sing and dance instead. Let's give it a shoulder shake too, yalla. For we have been out of tune for far too long, and look, we have all this Mediterranean light and the sunrise.
Thank you. Thank you, Zeina. I'd like to just pivot a little bit and ask you to read a poem that's not on all of these themes. I know that you and Halal Yan put out a call for love poems recently.
Yes.
And so I know that you're thinking beyond all of these themes as well.
Yeah. It was my birthday yesterday. Mm-hmm. This was written on my birthday 2 years ago. It is a love poem for my husband, and it's called Immortality, or On Turning 36. You say, my neck smells like 10 years ago, and here we are, students again, drunk against the wall of our favorite club in the city, where we danced to French music on Wednesdays, and Arabic oldies on Fridays, and on Saturdays it was dark enough and Bon Jovi still sounded good in Bed of Roses. My body believes your hands that travel down and down years and years of us, and up to that first small kiss by the river. I remember the sound of it mostly. Will the best songs always feel like oldies now? And should we be worried? Dalida has a song where she forgets she's twice 18 and almost autumn, wears too much makeup, and seduces a young man. I ask you if, in theory, an 18-year-old God would want to undress me, and you inhale through your teeth, begin to say something when our little girls call us back from across these rooms and we walk down the corridor toward them. We've become better at this entangling of our bodies, though we don't recover as fast from vodka anymore. And the headaches last longer. Last weekend, we lay hung over on the sofa all day, and our girls watched as much TV as they wanted. And they said, "Thank you, thank you." We knew better, but still allowed love to sound easy sometimes. And yes, we've wasted so much and so many of our days, but do you remember your old car? I was jealous of her, called her bitch, complained about the windows that got stuck and the seats, but she always got us home despite our speed and intoxication, foolish gods that we were, that we are.
Thank you so much. I have actually several more questions, but I'm going to open it up to the audience. So if you have a question, please raise your hand and I'll call on you and you can ask Zeina. Yes, Maya.
Thank you so much. That was
Thank
really
you.
Beautiful.
Thanks.
My question is very simple. Why did you choose to write in English?
That's not a simple question, my God. Oh my God. It was part choice, part not choice. So I think many things had to intersect to lead me to write in English. One of them is a post-colonial education. I was educated in French, right? And so everything we studied in French, except for the Arabic language, of course, which, you know, we couldn't study in French. I think probably they could have tried, but I don't know. So immediately, I think, whether we like to admit it or not, there existed this belief instilled in us that Arabic is less. And that if you wanted to do anything or be anything in this world, you got to learn other languages. It's good to learn other languages, of course. But there is a hierarchy, that French was above Arabic, that English was above Arabic. And that hierarchy is instilled in the classroom, where it doesn't matter if you get a bad grade in Arabic, but you can't get a bad grade in French, right? So there is that. But there's also coincidence, which is pure coincidence, which is like I wanted to get as much away from my parents as possible and go to the American University of Beirut. I just wanted to be at AUB because for a girl from Tripoli, I want to be at AUB, live in the dorms and get out of this house. And so this was, this was a decision, all right, so I'm going to study English literature now because I love literature. And so I ended studying, my BA, my MA for, we're talking about 7 years, 6, 7 years of reading, writing, and, in English. So I naturally kind of migrate, and English became easier. It became easier. There's also the complicated relationship that I have with Arabic, that I think many Arabs have with Arabic. And I think some of it comes from the fact that, my Lebanese dialect that I speak at home with my mom and dad and kids and, is not the Fusha. It's not the modern standard Arabic. So we don't go about saying, كيف حالك اليوم يا زينة, right? That was for the Mexican sitcoms that were translated into there was a whole era where Mexican sitcoms, where soap operas were translated into modern standard Arabic, and so to us it became very, it's so weird, it became very much associated with Mexico, modern standard Arabic. So when I say كيف حالك اليوم, نعم يا راكال, that was the answer. But anyways, the idea is there is a disconnection that I felt as a little girl between the modern standard Arabic that I learned, that the teacher were always telling me, it is so good, you will never write as well as the Mutanabbi, so I might as well not try, because I will never be the Mutanabbi. So there was a love-hate relationship that I'm now trying to rectify as much as possible with Arabic. I think many things had to intersect in order for me to become the poet that I'm, with the language that I'm speaking. Thank you.
Thank you very much. No, thank you. This was very beautiful.
Thank you.
I want to follow up on this obsession with languages because I'm also Lebanese, and I do feel first happy for you that you found your voice.
French educated, huh?
Yes.
Of course, you can hear it. Yes.
But yeah, it's very good that you found your voice. But then the question remains: if our mother tongue is really the Lebanese dialect, that's what we talk with our parents with. But then in the end, because Arabic is a bit farther away from us because it's Fusha, and as you said, because of post-colonial education, do you feel that you lose something in writing poetry, which is a very with a very close art that needs you to think in a language that is your mother tongue? Do you feel you are losing something in expression?
I don't want to think about it anymore because I want about it this way anymore because I want to let go of the guilt. As long as I feel guilty toward the Arabic language, I will never be able to work with it. It will always be something that is a god, and you cannot talk to gods. I mean, you can if you want to, but do you know what I mean? Like when something becomes an icon, then it becomes stiff. And you can no longer have a conversation with it. So I need to let go of that guilt and that deification of the Arabic language, that it is so good and that we've ruined it and we are so guilty of like not writing in it. I need to let go of that in order for me to come back and work with it if I wanted to go back and learn again and work with it. I don't want to think about it as a loss. I want to think about it as a liminal space in which can be very rich between languages. You've got a point of view that very few people have. You are at the intersection of Arabic, French, and English. And I feel that that comes across in the poetry, so that it creates a certain voice. So I don't want to look at it as a loss. And also there's the question like, what is a mother tongue? What is it? Yes, Arabic is my mother tongue, but was French also at some stage? Is English also? Because even when I talk to my husband, it's not pure Arabic, right? We interweave the languages all the time. So that I want to take that and turn it into a strength of having those different perspectives and being able to work within that.
If I was teaching your work, what would I need to know in terms of putting it in a certain context? What writers should I know that came before you? And also, is there any themes that I would need to know to put into my students?
Oh, wow. What writers do you need to know that came before me is probably so many that I'm not even aware of. I think if you're asking me, if that's like indirectly asking me about my influences in my writing, I think first there was the French literature for sure. So Baudelaire was a big deal for me. Verlaine was a big deal for me growing up. I think Mahmoud Darwish is a big influence. I think Badr Shakir al-Sayyab is a big influence, the Iraqi poet. Rain Song is one of the most beautiful poems that I've ever read, hands down. I also think T.S. Eliot had a major influence on me. When I read The Wasteland, I was like, oh my God, I don't understand this, but I love it. So it's all the traditions that really I ended up reading because of the educational systems I was in, but also my contemporary Arab American Arab who write in Arabic, and also Arab American who write in English writers, you know, like Zeina, like Naomi, like so many of them, Hayyan Sharara, Fadi Jouda, Layla Shatti is a Tunisian American writer I adore. So my contemporaries for sure influenced me as well, and I keep making an effort to read their work, and I keep also making an effort to read the work of contemporary Arab women writing now in Arabic, so that, for example, I just finished Asma Azaiz's As the Woman of Lod Bormi, Kama Waladatni Loddiya, and it's a rewriting of religion and Palestine and God from like, it's a beautiful poetry book. So that you need, all these traditions define me, because all these languages define me. I think for the context, yes, it helps, right? Like it probably helped you, helped all of you guys that I talked, like I said the story behind the Arabi song before you heard it, because now you've context. I don't write in a vacuum, right? But I think, I think the poems, I feel the poems often allude at the context, so that the reader, even if they didn't know, that there is a key. I don't leave them completely stranded, and by that I mean the monolingual reader. So, did that answer the question? Yes.
Thank you so much for being here and for doing this event. It's really been an absolute delight. I had one technical question related to this ongoing conversation we've been having about language use and how that's communicated in different audiences. I was delighted when I read Arabi Song to see the notes in the back, which provide context for the reader. It almost operates as a glossary, but I assume that you would be very hesitant to use the word glossary for what you do here in the notes section. And I wondered if you could address that as a style choice, as a publication choice. And I also wondered if you could address briefly the issue of multilingual or bilingual. I'm really curious with this Duets project, how you're going to go about publishing. I know that there's a limited space for poems, both poems in translation, but also multilingual poetry or poems that incorporate multiple languages. A lot of presses have difficulty with that. So I'm curious if you could talk about those challenges.
Sure. So to begin with the duets, I'm not really bothered right now with who publishes them and who doesn't. I feel that part of me allowing myself to write the duet is a political choice, because I've allowed myself to maybe be half incomprehensible to a certain reader, whether it's like an Arabic reader solely or an English reader solely. Perhaps in my case, it's the English reader more so, because people read me in English, have been used to, reading me in English. So that this is a decision that I made, that it's part of the art of the duet, that it might leave some readers out, and that is okay, because that's also part of me saying there exists a whole world out there. And of course, we're shut away from some of it. And this realization, I feel, is important. So that I've allowed myself this. And once I've allowed myself this, it means I'm not going to bother right now with like, oh my God, who's going to publish these? I think whoever might want to publish my forthcoming collection, if it has the duets in it, is already a publisher who understands my work and is on board for this. So I'm not going to morph my art to maybe get published somewhere. Do you know what I mean? What was the first part of the question? Sorry, Oh yeah, that was just me being aware that some people might not get it, and I don't necessarily want to shut down the poem. Let's give them a glossy. I don't know if I'll do it in my next collection. That's the question I ask myself. Like, Zeina, will you do that, or will you just let the reader Google? Because you can Google everything. You can. Do you know? Yeah. So I don't know whether I'll keep doing that or not. It's a very good question, yeah, because I ask it to myself too. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm afraid we've come to the end of our session. Zeina, I think, can you stay and sign some books and other things? Yeah.
Thank you.
So thank you all for being here. Thank you for your questions. And thank you most of all to Zeina for generously answering our questions and letting us probe your mind and your poetry, and for sharing your beautiful poetry with us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. And I also wanted to say, wanted to say thank you so much to Lynn and Jess and everyone at the MEI who made this happen. I'm really, truly very, very grateful. Thanks a lot.
You are welcome. Thank you, Zeina, for having us host you. We were so honored to have you, and thank you, Zeina Azzam, for moderating this. Thank you all for coming. Keep coming to our events. Sign up for the newsletter. Go on our website. Read about our arts and culture program. And if you have grabbed a copy of the poetry book, just Zeina is with us for a little bit of time to sign it. Thank you.